So much about the.
What would you say if I turned into all the things you love to hate? And on my way comes crashing through the rotten beams and window panes.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Can you believe it? It is already episode 8. I am your host, as always, Dan Brosman. Thank you for being here. I am kind of here tonight, sort of. I know this is a little bit late. Usually I try to drop these on a Friday, but I have been sick with a cold and not sounding very well while I'm recording, and maybe you can pick it up right now. I don't know how good or bad I am sounding, but I have my cough drops here. I have my tea. No, this is not the Goviki. It's, I didn't get the test, but this is something I got from my son, and my son did have the test, and he was negative on that. So we are going to press on here, and hopefully I can make it through without hacking up a lung. I'm glad you're here, so let's get into it. Analogue announces a new FPGA console. It's the Duo for TurboGrafx 16 and PC Engine, amongst other things. And hey, are you a Jurassic World fan? I know my son is, big time. So, Jurrassic World Dominion resumes production. One guess why they stopped. And I want to talk about 3 things in the video game world I never got into. Something that's popular with a lot of people, but I just never got into it. So, Analogue, my love and hate for this company. I love them, but damn, there is stuff about them that drive me nuts. Have released at least a statement and on their website showing that yes, in fact, in 2021 they will be releasing something called the Duo, an FPGA system console that will play TurboGrafx 16, PC Engine, Super Graphics, TurboGrafx CD, PC Engine CD-ROM, and Super Arcade CD-ROM. So basically, it's going to play PC Engine and TurboGrafx, and then, you know, of course, one was the American version and the other one was the Japanese version, and then both had CD add-ons, so that would be, you know, the TurboGrafx CD and the PC Engine CD. You know, I love how companies will sell you a console and say, oh, you know, it plays like 8 different consoles. And it's like, well, okay, but, you know, like the Famicom is Nintendo. It's the same thing. It's just a Japanese version. But this is really exciting. I love this. Anytime Analogue comes out with something like this, you know that it's going to be quality. It's not Hyperkin when you're like, you always know what you're going to get with Hyperkin. As far as the consoles go, they're okay. They're not horrible, but they're not great either. And Analogue is probably the one that sets the bar the highest here. And let's see. They are charging $199, so $200, which is in line with everything else that they've been selling lately. The, you know, Analogue Pocket went for $200. The Super NT and the Mega SG, both respectively, went for $200. So, you know, especially for this console, especially for the Duo, that's really a good price, because for those of you that have not looked into or are not actively collecting for these systems, namely TurboGrafx, PC Engine, and their CD counterparts, it is expensive. not like Neo Geo expensive, but it's definitely not cheap, especially for like the TurboGrafx CD consoles, because I don't know how many of those were made. I don't think a lot were made, but there's not that many out there. And even for like the TurboGrafx regular HuCard console, that's not cheap either. And there's been a lot of things here in the last handful of years as far as adapters for getting RGB out of it to HDMI into the back of your TV, and that's been really nice. So it's nice to see that TurboGrafx is getting some love now, but it's not cheap. And this is what makes this item so great. I mean, $299, that's a deal. I know the resale shop that I go to, the secondhand shop that I go to here in town, the guy behind the counter has been trying for like a half a year to get me interested in the actual Turbo Dual that they have in the back there. I've never had him bring it out because they want $500 for it. I don't know if that's what it's going for, or if that's expensive, or if that's a good deal. I don't know. I've never really looked into it, but I mean, just off the top of my head, $500, I'm like, no. And especially now, I mean, a lot of these consoles, I'm not going to, those older consoles like that, I'm not going to hook up to my TV. It's going to be a showpiece on my shelf. And $500 for aging technology is never a good investment as far as the way I think. And I know I've said it before, with prices going up on everything, these people out there that have 2600s and think they're going to get $100 for it, you're out of your mind. Well, we got like 10 games with it. Okay, what do you got with it? Well, we got Barnstormer and Choplifter and Pitfall and Frogger. It's like, oh my God, you're up to $30 now. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So back to the Duo. So let's take a look. So obviously it's region-free worldwide compatibility with 50 to 60 hertz, 100 to 240 volts. So, basically covering, the US and Europe and Japan. HDMI 1080p, 720p, and 480p. NTSC and PAL support. Lag-free, zero signal degradation. Get that out. Yeah, I mean, it's FPGA, so it's not emulation. That's the great thing about this is, a lot of emulators look and sound great, but, there's always that little bit of lag introduced into everything. Let's see, audio is 16-bit audio, digital audio via HDMI. And it comes with, I believe it comes with one 8-bit DO controller. It's a Bluetooth 2.4, which is nice. Now you can, it comes with a couple USB ports, so you can hook up other controllers to it. And it also comes with the original style HuCard Turbo Chip. Let me see here. Well, anyway, it comes with the outlet for the original controllers, which is nice. That's always nice. I don't know how readily available they are, but one of these days I'm going to start going wireless. I'm still wired controller. I'm still a wired controller guy. And it's so crazy too, because I'm so into the wired controller and anti-wireless for my retro systems, where a lot of times I got to get the cord extensions just to make it to my couch, which I don't know if that gives you lag in the extension. I don't think it does. But so now I have these massive cords, so then when I go to put them away, I'm winding it up forever. So that's something to look forward to. But unfortunately, there was something about this too that just makes me groan and sigh, and that is that it's limited availability. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means right now or if that means, hey, we're doing this run and that's it, folks. Peace out. Because you know what that means? It means the pre-orders are going to be another shit show. They are. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a shit show, just like the Pocket, because this is how they do it. I mean, the only way it doesn't become a shit show is if it's open orders. Well, obviously, with it being a limited run, that, you know, it's not going to be, it's going to be a shit show. And I get it. You know, a lot of that probably has to do with, you know, COVID and the availability of these places to you know, these factories to make all this electronics. And, you know, it's affecting everybody. You know, it affected the Poly Mega. It's affecting even the new consoles coming out, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. I mean, it's all something that everybody's having to deal with right now. And hopefully, you know, whenever we get out of this, everything will go back to normal. And, you know, we'll get second runs of all these analog products that we want. And I am going to try to get this. Even though next month, in less than a month probably, I have the Poly Mega coming, which, you know, I got it specifically for what the Duo is doing. So now they come out with this. Because I pre-ordered the Poly Mega twice. Originally, I wanted it for the Sega Genesis module. And then a week after I had pre-ordered it, Analogue came out with the announcement of the Mega SG, canceled that pre-order. And since then, I decided to start collecting for TurboGrafx 16, which is great. You know, let's pick the one of the few consoles out there and systems that is expensive to collect for. Let's do that. But I like it because it's still like solid state media. It's not optical drives. Anyway, so sometime in 2021, you know, I mean, realistically, by the time, well, they announced it now. And whenever pre-orders go on, we could be looking at maybe this time next year by the time people actually start getting this thing. Probably, I mean, realistically. So, you know, go out there and get in line. I'll be there. You know, it'll be probably a 10 o'clock thing, and I'll have my card ready to go, and hopefully I don't get, you know, hung up on shipping again, but it is what it is. So, I got a little boy, and if you have children, you know that, you know, they like to focus on one thing a lot of times, and, you know, kid shows or movies or whatever, and, you know, Jurassic Park and dinosaurs are huge in this house. They've only just let up a little bit lately because Ghostbusters has become a thing here. But he loves Jurassic Park. We have heard that theme song over and over and over and over again. Oh my God. And he'll tell you, he'll like, hey Dad, this is Jurassic Park theme. I'm like, yeah, I know, bud. You told me every day, 100 times a day. So I don't think he really understands that there's another movie coming out, and I'm actually excited for this. It's Jurassic World Dominion, and I already knew that they were doing this, and it's supposed to be the like final one in the trilogy of Jurassic World. Of course, you know, these things make a ton of money, so Jurassic Park or Jurassic World is definitely going to come back in some way, shape, or form after this. Because these movies make a ton of money. Okay, well, maybe not the second Jurassic Park, but... And it's great because they're bringing back a lot of the old characters from the original movies. You know, you got Laura Dern in there, Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, and then, you know, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Harper. So the old with the new, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the first two Jurassic Worlds were they were awesome. I enjoyed them. You know, you'd think it would get old, and it kind of did a little bit. You know, I mean, how many? You always know what's going to happen in here. It's like, okay, we got it starts off, everything's under control. We have the dinosaurs under control. We're in control. And then at some point, we're not in control. And then there's that oh shit moment until the end when you do get control. Or at least you get off the island so you don't get eaten. And, you know, it's being produced by Amblin, which is Steven Spielberg's company. I don't think he's directing it, but I think he directed the very first Jurassic Park. And like I said, it's the third movie in the trilogy, and of course, but they shut down. They shut down for 2 weeks, and yes, it was because of COVID. You know, I don't know, several people, I guess, as part of the production there tested positive, and you know, I mean, 2 weeks ain't bad. To be honest with you, when I heard the news that they had started back up, I didn't even I thought they had been down for months, but evidently they were up and running again. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's all I got to say about that. Yeah. You know, I consider myself a video game nerd. Yeah, I mean, I'm a dork, hands down. But there's always been some things in the video game world that everybody seems to like. Maybe not everybody, because now I'm finding out that I'm not the only one. But there were certain things that in the video game world that a lot of people seem to like, and I just never got into a lot of these things. And I'm gonna talk about 3 things right now, and I'm gonna tell you what they are. So it's RPGs, Pokemon, and point and click adventures. And I know it sounds kind of random, but it's just always, I always feel like I wish I was into them, because everybody talks about them with, you know, like it's the best thing in the world. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I was into these. And I will say I've dabbled in at least 2 of them. The RPG, I'd say the biggest that I've gotten into an RPG was probably the Knights of the Old Republic. And I got to be honest with you, the only reason why I got into that, because that's Star Wars. I played the first and second games, and then the MMO, I played that for about a year, which is, you know, very similar to the Knights of the Old Republic that came out on the Xbox and the PC, the original Xbox. And those are all great games. They're all great games. Even I really liked what they did with the MMO for that. This is great. They took a storyline and made it a deep cut, and it was great. And I know me and a lot of other Star Wars fans are hoping that, you know, at one point Disney makes a movie based on, you know, that war between the old Sith Empire and the Old Republic. So that was the most successful jaunt I had into RPGs. But there's been other less successful ones. I tried to get into the Super Mario Brothers RPG for the Super Nintendo, and I to be fair, I haven't really given it that hard of a chance. But the little bit I've played of it, it's like it just doesn't click. And I'm trying to think what the other one is. Oh, back in the day, PlayStation, the original PlayStation, you know, Final Fantasy VII. And I played that game quite a bit. And I'm not going to say that I didn't get into it. I got into it until a certain point, because the storyline took me in. But I never get good at those games, you know, putting together the right amount, the certain people with the certain abilities, you know, the healer and the warrior and the whatever, the mage, you know, and making and equipping them. It always seemed just like a lot of effort that I just never got into. So there's that. And I know now that there's a lot of other people that didn't get into RPGs. It's just, and especially now, I'm probably at the age when it's a point in my life when it's going to be even harder to get into a game like that, because RPGs ask a lot of your time. And, me as a collector and an avid gamer and a guy with a full-time job and a family, I got too many games to play and I got too much to do with my family where I just don't have the time to sit down and dedicate to an RPG. And that's okay. That's all right with me. One of the other things that I always see people getting into is Pokemon. And I will be honest with you, I know very little about Pokemon, but I know it's huge. And I don't really have a lot to say on this other than the fact that I think the biggest reason why I didn't get into Pokemon was simply at my age. I was just a little bit too old. I was probably more than a little bit too old when Pokemon came out to really get into it. But I know my son has started talking about it. And to be honest with you, he probably knows more about it than I do. But you see, like, a lot of the games, especially the Game Boy games, are really collectible. They can be pricey. There's a lot of bootlegs out there of them. And I guess that's all I really know about that. I just, it's another one of those things that people talk about it with such a passion. And I'm just like, and when Pokemon Go went out, I had friends that were around my age and they were like, yeah, Pokemon's awesome. And I would see people down at the park here, down the street from me, playing it, and they were much younger than me. For a brief second, I thought, well, maybe I'm going to get into it. Maybe I'll download it and give it a shot. But I was just like, what am I going to do? I'm going to walk down to the park here, I'm 40 something years old. I'm just, I'm just not going to do it. But, that seemed like it was for the fans that were already there for Pokemon. It seems like that was a tremendous thing for them. I mean, you don't really hear about it too much right now. It was a star that burned a bright light for a short time. But I every once in a while I do hear that, people still do play it, but it's nothing like it was before. So, yeah, that's Pokemon, not for me. And another one of the things that I always wish I could get into is point and click adventures. The Lucasfilm or LucasArts lineup of all those adventures they did. What is it? I think it's the Adventures of Monkey Island or whatever, which I just bought from Limited Run Games to play on the Sega CD. I tell you why I bought it. And I bought, was it that Thumbleland or whatever? I think it came out, it was an indie game that came out like 3-4 years ago that got a physical release. I just love the look of those games. And I haven't played Monkey Island yet, but I have played that Thumbleland. I'm probably butchering that name. And it is fun. The problem is it's so tedious, the things you have to do and the things you have to figure out. I am not a thinker. I am not a puzzle solver, unfortunately. And maybe it's just because I don't have the patience, but I do enjoy playing them sometimes when I know what I have to do. And I don't know you could say that's not the point of the game if you're just going on YouTube and watching how people do it, but they're still fun to watch, and they're in with that kind of pixelated art. I just love that. Because I did play, I think on the PC, the Beavis and Butthead, I think it was called Virtual Stupidity. And that was pretty fun. But, that only lasted for so long, too, because the only reason why I was playing it is because, it was Beavis and Butthead. But, at a certain point, it's like, well, it's just a point-and-click adventure. So you don't like that. So now the Beavis and Butthead part is worn thin, and now you're just left with game mechanics that you don't like. But a lot of people love them. And in everything that I've talked about so far, I understand that. I get it. I could see it. It's not something that I don't get. There are some things that it's like, I don't understand what the big deal is here. You have to excuse me here. I'm going to take a little sip of this tea. And with the Pokemon thing, another thing kind of related to that I've never really been able to get into that I know is huge out there is anime. Just like the art style of anime in a lot of games or just the actual cartoons or whatever. And I know anime is huge in Japan, obviously, because that's where it's from. I just never got into that look. I don't know. It's just a lot of that Japanese stuff. And I would love to go to Japan and like immerse myself in that gaming culture over there just to get a taste of it firsthand. Because then I think that I would have a little bit better of a feel for it. But anime has never been my jam. It just hasn't. I know a lot of people love it. A lot of people collect the cartoons and there's a lot of art styles there, and it doesn't kill a game for me, but it's just one of those things that I'm just not about. I guess to kind of end the show with this, I wasn't going to talk about this when I first started writing up what this episode was going to be like, but I watched this movie last night. And I want to talk a little bit about it. And if any of you guys have Amazon Prime, you probably know what I'm going to be talking about is the second Borat movie. If you haven't seen it yet and you have Amazon Prime, you got to watch it. That Sasha Conan, was it? I don't even know. Sasha something. Baron Conan or something like that. That guy... I don't know how that guy does what he does. With the first Borat movie, especially with Bruno. And if you haven't seen Bruno, you need to see that. Because that thing is something else. And then with the second Borat movie. That guy, you want to talk about pushing the line? And I know sometimes he does step over that line. But man... You want to talk about a guy that bends that line. That guy bends the line. And I just want to say right now, before we go forward, there is going to be spoilers here. So if you haven't seen that movie yet and you want to stop this right now, you can end the podcast right now because this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. Okay, so here we go. So, he plays this character that's basically from Kazakhstan. And he did a documentary coming to the United States. And, that whole thing. Well, years later, it turns out that he brought shame to the country. And he's in prison. And they bring him out to come to the United States and deliver this monkey that they have. That's like the number one star over there and porn star, which is just like, okay. And in the meantime, he finds out that he has this daughter, right? And she's just, she's tied up in a barn in Kazakhstan. Well, she ends up coming to the United States in this crate with the monkey. And they brought this monkey over to be a present for Michael Pence. And first of all, they start this movie off talking about Donald Trump, and then they go into Mike Pence, and they refer to Mike Pence as a pussy hound. And I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard. I'm like, I can't believe that they just called Mike Pence a pussy hound. I'm like, I guess the gloves are off. I mean, it totally set the tone for the rest of the movie because you were just like, okay, so that's where we're going with this. I got you. Let's go. I'm with you. So, yeah. So the monkey dies on the way over because it was a present for, I think it was Pence or whatever. So the monkey dies and the daughter is like in this crate and she's just, this unkept, dirty, backwoods girl that he now, because the monkey's dead, has to figure out how to get her all cleaned up to give to Mike Pence. To kind of get in good because like the premier of Kazakhstan was pissed because, Donald Trump had been with all these other kind of dictators like the guy from the Philippines, I can't remember his name, and like Kim Jong-un, and he was pissed that he wasn't involved in that. So now he's sending a present, to kind of smooth things over. So he's in that category with those guys. And, so basically this, there's going to be parts that I'm leaving out because I don't really know that I want to talk about them on this podcast. Because and that's how bad this is. And by the way, I know there's not a lot of people that listen to this, but if you have kids around right now, I'd probably shut this down or have them go out of the room. Because if I do end up kind of talking about it, it's not for kids' ears at all. So basically, the main gist of it is him trying to get his daughter ready to give over to Mike Pence. And the messed up thing is, along the way, Mike Pence shows up. He's at the CPAC convention, and a whole bunch of people there, and he's up on stage, and Borat actually gets in there with his daughter. They made him out to look like Donald Trump. Now, in the movie, it makes it, look like he just went to a Halloween store and got the costume. But I heard in subsequent interviews that, it took them 6 hours with all these makeup artists. And you could tell. As soon as you see him, you're like, that's no mask. But, and so he gets in there. And he talks about in this interview how he got in there. And it's amazing that he got in there. Because you got Secret Service, you got security up the wazoo. And he gets in there. He's got his daughter slinged over. And he's yelling to Mike Pence. And Mike Pence sees him and stops and looking and listening to him. And he says, I got the girl. I got the girl for you. And I'm just like, holy shit, dude. This dude just came in here. And, of course, the Secret Service right away and police. And they escort him out. And he said that after that was all said and done, they didn't even look at his ID. Like, they did nothing to him. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know that he was, this actor and playing Borat, which is crazy and kind of disturbing, seeing as though that Mike Pence is the vice president. So now he's failed at doing that. And he sends a fax to the premier, and the premier says, well, you got to figure something else out. Otherwise, you're going to be executed. So now they decide that they're going to give her to Giuliani, the president's lawyer and the former mayor of New York City. I mean, everybody knows who Giuliani is. So basically, we get to the end, and here's the scene that is blowing up that everybody is talking about. And this is where funny kind of goes into, wow, this is not cool. And not on the side of Borat, but on the side of Giuliani. So basically what happens is they have Giuliani come in and have an interview because he thinks he's talking to this girl from Kazakhstan who's a reporter that's like a conservative reporter, right? And he doesn't know. He's not in on this. So he thinks he's just coming in. So he's 100% serious. And of course, now this girl plays his daughter that's 15, but the actual actress is in her 20s. Okay, let me just say that. But at some point in this interview of them going back and forth, they get done and she's like, well, why don't you come into the bedroom with me? We'll take off your mic or whatever. So she takes off this mic. It's like she literally lifts his shirt up, takes off his mic. She takes hers off or whatever. He lays back on the bed and he says he was tucking his shirt in, but in which could very well have been. But he puts like part of his hand down his pants and he's just laying there. He's patting her on the side of her body. And it's so weird. And you just like, you want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt because you don't want to believe that something really creepy is going on here. But, now this is going to be my opinion. This is strictly my opinion. You guys watch the movie and make your own opinion. But my feeling, my gut reaction, even watching it a second time, was on some level, he was being sketchy and inappropriate, and it was like, damn. And especially with everything that came out with Epstein this past year and that documentary that got released, these guys, these guys with power and influence in whatever else, it makes you wonder what else they have done. I mean, with women or just in general that you don't know about. And sometimes you're just like, I don't want to know about it. And it was entertaining and informative at the end there and really concerning. And unfortunately, I think for this movie, it's going to be more remembered for Giuliani scene at the end than it is going to be for everything else. Which is just, let's see how far we can push this line. And it's, and that, not only that Giuliani part, but there are so many parts in these movies where it doesn't cast people in a good light. And he doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily like an entrapment kind of thing. It's like, I'm going to give them enough rope to hang themselves. And that's how they look bad, if you know what I mean. But I really don't know if he's ever going to do another movie like this. I really don't know after 2 Borat movies, and especially that Bruno movie, where you could go with this. Because it would be very hard. I mean, I don't think you can bend that line any more than what you've seen in this movie. But definitely check it out. It is funny. It is crazy what they do in this movie. Oh my God. And I so much want to talk about some of the other parts, but I just can't. This podcast isn't 100% clean, but it's definitely not that level dirty, for sure. So I think that's where I'm going to end it this time, folks. Watch that movie. That's all I can say. And, on YouTube, where I'm going to post, I post this, and, of course, on other Apple, iTunes, and Google. But I can get comments on the YouTube app, on YouTube. So leave me a comment. Have you seen this movie? What you thought about it? And what you thought of the end with Giuliani? I mean, if you thought that was something, or if I'm just reading a little bit more into it than what was there. I could be wrong, but, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, sitting here and listening to me. Or maybe you're standing. I don't know. I'm standing. And hopefully next time I talk to you, I will be a little bit better and not sound like a scratchy voice for a half an hour. So, see you guys later. Have a good night, and bye-bye.